The estate of well-known Nashville philanthropist and businessman A.M. Burton has reached a settlement with the Nashville Church of Christ regarding ownership of the historic downtown site that was formerly known as the Central Church of Christ, following years of legal battle. A Davidson County judge authorized the arrangement on Wednesday, putting an end to a protracted conflict that had split the congregation, involved one of the most powerful families in the city, and raised concerns about the future of one of Nashville's iconic religious institutions. The Nashville Church of Christ was found to have breached a restrictive deed language reserving the property for the use and benefit of the Church of Christ under the conditions of the settlement. Consequently, ownership passes back to the estate of A.M. Burton, a founding member of the congregation and the great-grandfather of singer-songwriter Amy Grant. The agreement, however, placed the property under probate court supervision for sale at fair market value, with the earnings split between the parties as opposed to relinquishing it entirely. The church building, which is situated in the center of downtown Nashville, is valued at about $11 million according to tax filings. An ancient church at the heart of the controversy. Founded by A.M. Burton about a century ago, the Central Church of Christ was once a prosperous church with strong roots in Nashville's Christian past. In addition to being well known for his generosity and leadership in the Churches of Christ, Burton founded the Life and Casualty Insurance Company, which at the time was one of Tennessee's most important financial organizations. For many years, the church served as both a place of worship and a pillar of the community, bringing together thousands of Nashvillians and leaving a lasting spiritual legacy. However, that legacy has deteriorated in recent years. The church was experiencing increasing internal conflict by the late 2010s. The Central Church of Christ was renamed the Nashville Church of Christ when Sean Mathis was appointed as the church's third elder in 2017. Later, the church changed to private, online-only worship sessions after incorporating as a nonprofit. As the leadership changed, longtime members started to go, and public worship sessions completely stopped. The once vibrant site slipped into disrepair as attendance declined, with trash piling up near its shuttered entrances and unpaid taxes growing in county records. The Burton family's surviving members became concerned about the change and started looking into the church's operations and the building's state. Legal disputes about a legacy. The Nashville Church of Christ filed a lawsuit against the Burton estate in 2020, arguing that the deed limitation was either invalid or had not been broken. Church officials contended that their worldwide outreach and online ministry fulfilled the intended objective of the deed's use and benefit clause. But the Davidson County Chancery Court didn't agree. The court maintained the deed restrictions' enforceability in a 2022 decision, but it did not address whether the church's present operations had violated the restriction. The Burton estate then filed a countersuit, arguing that the stipulations of the deed were broken by the building's deteriorating status and the absence of in-person worship. After concluding that the structure was no longer being used for religious reasons, the state of Tennessee started collecting property taxes. Since then, unpaid taxes have totaled $558,000 plus interest, according to Davidson County tax records. The settlement reached this week settles those unresolved issues. The Burton estate and the Nashville Church of Christ will split the unpaid taxes under the terms of the agreement, with the estate's contribution being limited to $50,000. A middle ground to prevent cost, delay, and uncertainty. Amy Grant and her cousin Andy Burton, who are co-administrators of the estate, said in a joint statement that they accepted the settlement in order to avoid additional costs and delays. "We are committed to preserving the legacy of A.M. Burton," Grant stated. "We were driven and committed to protecting our family and making this right." Grant, a longtime Nashville resident and six-time Grammy Award winner, has already discussed her great-grandfather's impact on her life and faith in public. In the family statement, Andy Burton reiterated those feelings, highlighting their goal to repair the property's reputation and guarantee that its future serves the public good. He declared, "Central Church of Christ ought to be commemorating its 100 years of community service this year. Rather, it is a closed eyesore in the center of our metropolis." The members who suddenly lost their cherished church home in 2018 However,
still have our deepest that this momentous occasion will refocus attention on recovery and the future. How the settlement's funds are allocated. The court-approved agreement states that the Burton estate will get 80% of the net earnings from the sale of the property under probate supervision, with the Nashville Church of Christ receiving the other 20%. A number of nearby parking lots are specifically left out of the settlement and will continue to belong to the church. To make sure the property is promoted and sold at a reasonable price, the probate court will supervise the transaction. There are no limitations on the property's future use when the sale is completed, notwithstanding the Burtons' expressed wish that a philanthropic buyer will continue to use the building in service to the Nashville community. The conflict's origins: A.M. Burton added a restriction language to the original property deed almost a century ago, which is the root of the dispute. The land must always be used for the use and benefit of the Church of Christ, according to the provision. Although prevalent in religious property transactions in the early 20th century, these clauses are becoming more and more contentious in contemporary property law. Conflicts over whether the property still serves its original religious purpose frequently occur when congregations split up, combine, or alter their doctrines. In this case, the Burtons contended that the Nashville Church of Christ's move away from in-person worship and the physical deterioration of the structure constituted a blatant violation of that clause. However, the church claimed that the deed's intention to further the mission of Christ's church was accomplished by its internet services and global outreach. The Nashville Congregation of Christ's lawyer, Jeremy Goolsby, stated that the congregation decided to reach a settlement in order to move past the conflict and concentrate on their larger goals. In an email to the Christian Chronicle, Goolsby said, "The church has made the strategic decision to settle the very narrow litigation related to certain deed restrictions attached to a single parcel of property." The church denies misconduct, he said. He stated, "The church looks forward to investing its portion of the proceeds from the sale of the building to support its global mission efforts with that broadened, global perspective." Sean Mathis and his father, Larry Mathis, are currently listed as elders on the church's website. Property and tax issues. According to public records, the church's property tax exemption was revoked by the Tennessee State Board of Equalization in 2020 after it was determined that the structure was not used in furtherance of exempt purposes. Davidson County consequently started imposing yearly taxes on the property. The church's financial and legal situation was made more difficult by those outstanding assessments, which totaled over $500,000. According to court documents, a crucial component of the settlement's finalization was the cost-sharing arrangement over the tax obligation. Maintaining a heritage of family and community. Beyond the courtroom, the conflict has brought up more general issues like faith, legacy, and the changing role of churches in contemporary communities. Amy Grant and Andy Burton have announced the establishment of the A.M. Burton Matthew 25 Fund, a charity foundation motivated by the biblical verse in which Jesus exhorts his disciples to assist the least of these in remembrance of their great-grandfather's vision. A family statement states that the fund's goal is to preserve, impart, and build upon the guiding values of A.M. Burton, to elevate his legacy of selfless generosity and faith in action, and to furnish charitable services that uplift individuals and strengthen our community. In an effort to carry on their ancestors' generosity in a modern setting, the family plans to ask other Burton heirs to donate their portion of the sale earnings to the new foundation. A year of reflection and milestones. The settlement falls on October 4, which would have been the Central Church of Christ's 100th anniversary of formation. Some former members had wanted to commemorate this milestone in the building itself. Rather, the building is deserted, its facade worn, and its doors shut. It looks to onlookers like a remnant from a bygone period, a representation of Nashville's evolving spiritual and cultural landscape. However, the Burton family and local allies see the settlement as a chance to change that history. "Seeing what has happened to the property is heartbreaking," Andy Burton remarked. "However, we think this resolution opens the door for something new, something that can honor the community's future as well as its past." What follows? Now that the court has given its consent, the probate process will start to decide how and when the property will be sold, depending on market conditions.